You know, you all have talked about some really serious things today. Cybersecurity threats, drones that will blow up your brain, I guess. You know, there's a guy out in the hall that can demonstrate all the reasons why your door locks are completely useless. I mean, these things are somewhat disconcerting. So today, what we're going to do right now is sort of what they do on the news whenever they've shown you all the fires and the robberies and general world destruction. They always have to end with that shot of the dog running through the water sprinkler or something like that to make you feel good before you go to bed. So that's what we're going to do right now, is more of a little bit lighter, fun session about using some technology to engage with your citizens in your community. And we're going to talk specifically about augmented reality. So I know there are folks with municipal government here that are accustomed to dealing with the city budget. And I'm just going to challenge you. Where's this clicker at? Let's see. I'm going to challenge you just for today, just for the next 45 minutes or so, augmented reality, the abbreviation is AR. Just for today, AR does not stand for accounts receivable. Okay, it is augmented reality. And so as he mentioned earlier, augmented reality is a technology that is not particularly well understood. Most people know about virtual reality. So you have, you know, in virtual reality, you wear a headset and these two screens are in front of your eyes. You can see the dual screens there. I guess that one's in Paris. And you feel like you're immersed in this other place. It's a digital experience that you have found yourself in. So it's a virtual reality. Well, AR is basically the opposite of that. So instead of immersing yourself in a digital place, you're putting digital elements into the physical space. And so you can see an example of this is a game that some of you have probably seen before. And so they've using a phone, there's a camera on, and there's that little guy that's throwing balls at you, and he obviously is not really there, but when you look at that location with your phone, he looks like he's there. So we're augmenting real reality with digital elements that you put in to make it seem like they're there. So that's augmented reality. And I know it's still a little bit squishy for people, especially if you've never seen it before. So I want to show you this video, and this was actually made by Pepsi probably 10 years ago. So this is a pretty old video, but it is such a great example of using augmented reality in a public space. So check this out.
Let me flip this script. I feel privileged for all who can witness this. I am close to divine. Know the moment is mine, the moment or sign. To all the squares that ask around, we getting it. My skills pay me. Trying to get a million, baby, with an adopted flow that God gave me. Me now. Tell whoever runners that they spot is temporary till I
think I got that one.
Tell Miss I'm on my wealth tip. So when we cash out soon, I'm just investing.
I'm telling you, this is how it works, man. There's a little camera right here.
So that's a great illustration of augmented reality. Now, as I mentioned, that was about 10 years ago, and Pepsi spent a Pepsi budget on that. If you're in the advertising industry, you know there's the Pepsi budget where they buy all the billboards. Well, that was a Pepsi budget project. That was before technology was allowed this to be so ubiquitous. So when they made that, they had to build all of this custom equipment to make that work, including the big, large screen and cameras. They used LiDAR technology to scan the ground and the buildings and be able to make it look like it was a real experience. There was a big computer that was running that. Here's the amazing thing about what you just saw that was produced by Pepsi 10 years ago, is that now, 10 years later today, everything they did and that AR experience can be done on your phone. It's pretty amazing. Phones now have cameras that are so hyper-realistic. You have a 4K screen on your phone. A lot of new phones now are coming built with LiDAR, which is a scanning technology that can read the floor and the ground and the tables and things around you and have a sense of where you are. So when we talk about augmented reality, as it relates to engagement with citizens that might be in your community, it is going to be through the format of a mobile device. There are other ways you can do it, but 99.9% of the time, if someone's going to do AR in your town, it's going to be with a mobile device. And they are quite capable devices these days, which is very cool. So I want to share a first example of an AR project here in Oklahoma that was done. This is a project relating to a mural in Bricktown, Oklahoma City. And some of you may have seen this mural. It's on the back side of what used to be the Oklahoma Event Center. It's a giant octopus, right? This huge octopus. And it takes up the entire side of a building. But if you look really closely at it, and it's hard to tell maybe from where you're sitting, there are all kinds of tiny little images hidden within the larger image. There's, like, you might even be able to see Abraham Lincoln's face over there. There's a ballerina built into it, and it's from a distance you can't see them. When you get up close you can. So Oklahoma City Free Press wanted to do a story about the artist who created this mural, and they wanted it to be engaging in kind of a different way for the public to learn more about the artist. And so we worked with them to create an AR experience with this mural that is the first kind of AR technology I'm going to tell you about, which is target image-based AR. So this is the oldest kind of AR as well, and a target image is kind of like a QR code, but it's not a QR code. It could be almost anything. It could be a logo or a flag or a sign, pretty much anything. And then when you scan it with your device, it goes to the cloud, and the device knows I'm supposed to attach some sort of digital experience to this target image. So what we did was we created a scavenger hunt out of this mural. And so there, you basically open up the experience, and it tells you to look for certain hidden images inside this mural. And when you walk up and scan those images, you will learn about the mural from the artist, which is really cool, and we'll get to see it in just a second. There's something else, though, about this particular type of AR that was really exciting, and it is exciting. Most of the time in the old days, and by the old days, I'm talking like last year or maybe 2 years ago, back then, most AR had to happen through an app. You know what I'm talking about, right? You download an app on your phone, it takes up memory space. This is coveted space, right, on your phone. You know, you're fighting for space for your apps. So a lot of people don't like to be marketed to by having to first download an app to then give someone permission to market to them or something. So they develop what they call web AR, web-based AR. So you don't actually download an app at all. You simply click a link in an article, or you scan a QR code or something like that, and it redirects you to a website that opens the camera on your device and activates the AR experience automatically. And when you're done, it goes away. You just close the tab and it's gone. So there's no commitment. And usually this is a great way to do AR if it's a one-time experience, like going to see a mural in downtown Oklahoma City. So let me show you kind of what this would look like. And I'll just warn you that I went and shot this video 2 nights ago. So it's an evening video. It doesn't show the mural. It doesn't give it its due, but you'll get the idea. So here we have, this is my phone screen that you're looking at, and I've gone to the website where the story is about this mural. And when I go to this website, I can scroll down, and it'll do that here in a minute, and I go read the story, and then it will talk about this taking a trip there to see it, and a scavenger hunt, and you press here to start the experience. Now it's redirected me to Zappar, which is the tool that we used. It's opened the camera on my phone, and you can see that now there are some instructions that have come up that tell me what I'm supposed to do here with this mural. And now you can see the first thing I'm supposed to find is this image of a dog. And so there's the mural, and I'm looking around. I happen to be standing right in front of it, and it'll pop up in a second.
Levon
And there's
Fallon.
the artist.
He was my dog for the entire decade of my 30s when I was still a single guy living by myself. Best dog I ever had. Was half Catahoula, half Coyote. He could jump 6 feet straight in the air. He climbed trees. He loved everybody, but he bit pretty much every friend I ever had come visit. And he was just a really lovable reminder, to me anyway, of the duality that exists in all of us. And I miss him, so I put him in my mural.
So there's the artist talking. He did got another one here with the ballerina.
The day I painted the ballerina, a little girl named Mia and her mother came by to see it. And she interacted, she danced in front of the ballerina on street level the day I painted it. And Mia has since passed away, but I still remember her doing that because it let me know that it wasn't just a fun, colorful mural that I made, but that an idea I had actually worked. And that gave me a huge boost of confidence since this was my first mural. So I'm always going to be really grateful that Mia danced with that ballerina on the day I painted it. It really inspired me to think, man, I can do this. This is an idea I had that's taken hold.
So I want you to just think about for a second how much more you experience that mural now. If you were physically standing there and you were able to go scan some elements of that mural and these AR videos popped up attached to those target images and you got to hear from the artist telling you about it and you're in that moment, in that place, and when it's done, you just click the little button in the browser and it goes away, no more. But it's a really interesting way to engage with the public with public art. So in communities that have murals, to be able to come up and interact with them in this way, first of all, it gets people out of their car to go see the mural and not just continually drive by it and never really pay much attention to it. But then they can actually interact with it and really go deep into understanding what it's about. And just so you know, this doesn't have to be terribly expensive either to do. This project that we did with Oklahoma City Free Press was a $5,000 project. And that developed the entire mural interaction. And there were about 6 different images you could find. And then once you found them all, a secret button popped up. And if you stood some distance from the mural and you tapped that button, and I didn't do it the other night because it was dark and it couldn't see it and it wouldn't work right. It'd be red during the day, it would have been fine. But if you stand at a distance, the octopus comes alive. And the tentacles start moving, and it looks like it's sitting in an aquarium on the side of this building, and it's really cool. And so $5,000. Now, you can spend a lot more. I want to show you a project. This is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this was done by a firm out of Los Angeles. This is a $230,000 AR project, and that included the mural too, I think. But check this out. So they're actually scanning the mural itself, and the mural comes alive. And everything in the mural begins to animate and move around, and you'll see it a little better here in just a second. So when you scan it, it's like this whole mural is now this living thing, and it's moving around and interacting, and visitors can use this app to sort of experience this interactive mural that is pretty mesmerizing to be able to see. And this also gives you an example of the spectrum from very complicated, high-end AR that's hundreds of thousands of dollars to simple AR experiences where you're scanning target images, $5,000. So it's the sort of thing that most communities, given enough creativity, could figure out how to do if they wanted to. I think about murals like, I've been to a lot of towns in Oklahoma that has a land run mural or a World War II mural that commemorates veterans, things like that. Imagine being able to scan those murals and watch them come alive, learn about history, learn about what the veterans from that community did to contribute to the wars that we fought as a country over the years. I mean, there's all kinds of neat things that you can do to engage the public with that. Now, there's another kind of AR as it relates to city walkability, and this is a little more common. It's location and GPS-based AR. So instead of scanning a target image or an image to activate the AR experience, this is actually using GPS coordinates. So if you're at the right GPS location, you can then do certain things. You can see here on the left, this is in Europe, there's a cathedral, and if you're at the right GPS spot, you can aim your device at that cathedral and tap on the screen, and it'll bring up information about that building. Over here, you can see a slightly more complicated version of GPS AR, where you actually hold up your device and it'll give you information about all the stores down that street. And then you can learn, almost like maps, but in real time in front of you as you're looking at it. Now, our company, back in 2018, we decided to do a really unusual experiment with GPS augmented reality. And it was our first foray into connecting people with Oklahoma history using AR. And so we did a project called Folk Secrets. And this was a time traveling project. And basically what we did was we created a contest. Actually, I shouldn't say too much because there's a video that will show you. But let me just say that we use augmented reality and GPS to connect people to time portals that they could walk into and experience the world around them. And I'll show you this video from News OK that kind of described how this whole thing worked. There are clues to a massive treasure hidden all over the metropolitan area of Oklahoma City, but not in the year 2018. They're hidden in the past.
It looks to be just recently opened too. That means we are most likely in the year 1916.
And to get to those clues, you have to go to those locations in the metro and then open a time portal and walk through that time portal into a previous era to find the clue. And that's what the app helps you do.
So the app is the Folk Secrets Codex app. It's on Android and iOS. And with this app, you'll take the app, you'll scan the floor, and if you're in the right GPS location, it'll find the portal. And you'll be able to go through and experience these different audio clues and visual clues. So for the 21C, it used to be the Ford factory. So when you walk into it, you're in 1916, and you see the Ford factory as it was back then.
Fred Jones was the nation's #1 seller of Ford cars and trucks.
You see the old cars, you see a worker working, you see the different parts for the cars, and you're able to walk around and see what it would have looked like back then.
So basically what's happening here is you're scanning the floor, it opens up a virtual door in the floor, and with your device you can see it, and when you walk through that door, you enter a 360 space that recreates that location the way it looked in the past. So this is the 21C Hotel in downtown Oklahoma City. It used to be a Ford Model T factory. And so those columns are still there, just like they were back when it was a factory. So we 3D modeled and recreated that space. And when you walk in that doorway, in time, you're entering that factory the way it looked in 1916. And then that's where you searched for the clue to the treasure. And we actually gave away thousands of dollars to people that were able to figure these things out as this treasure hunt. And so it was really, really cool. Now, this was paid for by a combination of funding from AT&T and Cox Communications. It was a AT&T Cox budget, kind of like the Pepsi budget. Very expensive to do this. And we did about 6 locations throughout the metro. And then we had a finale event at the state capitol where they had to bring all those clues together. And the first person that figured them all out won thousands of dollars. And it was a really great deal. And hundreds of people scoured the metro trying to find these time portals and solve these clues. It was really, really cool. But what we discovered is that as neat as it was not easily duplicatable. You know, you could do this with an AT&T or Cox budget, but Salisol's not going to do this, right? They're not going to have these portals in their town because it's going to cost $40,000, and no one's going to do that. So we went back to the drawing board and tried to figure out how can you create these kind of magical experiences, but do it in a way that every town in Oklahoma could do to connect their citizens and tourists and everyone else with history. And so that led us to a project called Timeframe. And so Timeframe is taking the genesis, the idea of Folk Secrets with the time portals, but instead of time portals, we're actually using real historical photography. And I'll actually show you a quick video that demonstrates the Timeframe project, which is, incidentally, is a collaboration between our firm and the Institute for Quality Communities at the University of Oklahoma.
Most of these towns have a lot of the buildings in their downtown community date from the territorial era when it was Oklahoma territory or Indian territory. And so they predate the 1907 statehood day. I just find that fascinating as a history nerd that you're looking at something that existed during the territorial era.
When somebody asks me to describe Newkirk, the first word that always comes to mind is quaint. We are still a community where we wave at people as we walk down the street. We wave at people as we drive down the streets. I would say one of our biggest challenges is reaching out to the generations that know this history, that are aware of this history, and giving them outlets on sharing it with our younger generations.
High level, I would say time frame, putting historical photos back into their GPS locations so people can go on hunts and kind of see the differences between like those photos and what those locations look like right now.
In conjunction with the Institute for Quality Communities at the University of Oklahoma, we've created a new augmented reality app, allowing people to explore Oklahoma towns in a whole new way. The app activates a history hunt, which takes you to specific locations to activate historical photos at the specific spots they were taken years ago.
Basically, whenever you unlock these photos are floating in front of you in 3D space. And the goal for the augmented reality part of this is to kind of show the huge differences that these places have gone through.
Directly adjacent to the garage was the Alamo Theater, seen in this picture from 1913.
By combining narration and sound effects with each image,
But also the new kids on the block, automobiles.
we tell the story of that place. You can also fade the photos in and out, creating a visual contrast between today and the past.
And I really have hopes that seeing the difference between then and now might inspire some individuals within the community to bring those buildings back to that point.
Once you collect a photo, it goes in your archive in the app and can be accessed later. So in effect, you're collecting history as you go.
The great folks at Trifecta Communications approached us about doing a partnership. I immediately thought, oh man, this sounds like a great partnership for students. And I also thought it'd be a great partnership for the OU Institute for Quality Communities, creating a new sense of appreciation for the communities that we have. It's a great way to show people the towns that they live in, and it's also a way to try to get new people to come into these communities and explore these communities.
While spurring a passion for history in our children, in our younger generations, because it is on their level. It is involved with technology. It is on their mobile device.
But I hope that people do get out there and go explore these communities and really immerse themselves in this incredible culture that we have here in Oklahoma and in the small towns.
Time frame is a high-tech way to explore Oklahoma's past. We really do believe it's the future of history.
In this particular case, we're not using web AR, we're actually using an app because it's meant to be used over and over and over again. You might explore Newkirk and then later go down and explore. In fact, the folks from Medicine Park are here. They're one of the next towns that are going to be going onto this app. You go down to Medicine Park and you can tour their town and see the historic photographs there, and it is a walking tour. So you have to get out of your car and you have to go downtown where the old buildings are and explore these areas. And that's what every Main Street Authority director wants, right? They want you out of your car and walking around down Main Street and buying something. And so this gets them out of their car. But the really neat thing about this and our hope for this project is that as more and more Oklahoma communities are added onto this app, they will be able to cross-pollinate each other. So if I've gone to Ponca City to go through this experience, maybe then I also go to Bartlesville, and then maybe I also go down to Pawhuska, and I can do a tour. We'll eventually create special missions where it might be a Route 66 mission, and every town on the app that's on Route 66, you go through all of those, you'll earn a badge for Route 66. You'd be amazed. Digital badges actually motivate people to do so many things. You'll buy airline tickets just to get a digital badge sometimes, or your miles and all this stuff. This is an interesting, and so getting people out exploring is great. But there's something else that intrigues me very much about this kind of technology use with communities and history. When we did the Folk Secrets project, which was the one before this with the time portals, it was a true competition, people were trying to win money. And there was an elderly gentleman that would call our office regularly while this competition was going on, trying to figure out, how do I use that stinking app? I cannot make it work. Augmented reality was just a bridge too far for him. And he called several times, and we tried to explain, here's how it works, this is what you do, and he never would get it. And then finally one day he called, and he said, I figured it out. I know what I'm gonna do here. And we were like, great, you figured out how to use the app. And he said, no, I don't know how to use that app. I can't figure it out. But my grandson, now he knows how to use it. He had no trouble with this app at all. And so he said, me and my grandson, we are a team, and we are going to win that money. Now, he didn't win, but it doesn't matter. The story is so great. I love this idea that the grandfather and the grandson were the team. And the grandson loved the app. Oh, he loved walking through time portals into history. And the grandfather knew the history, which you had to know, for that particular one, you had to know some of the history to get the clues. So the grandfather had the answers, and the grandson had the technology. And we forced them to work together to be a team. I would love to see situations where grandparents and their grandkids, or even parents and their grandkids, are exploring Oklahoma communities together. And the kids are running that app, and the grandparents are adding the local color, to the whole story, and telling about the place where they met the grandmother and the grandfather met at the malt shop or what have you. It's just such a wonderful opportunity. The other great thing about these kind of projects is that, again, AR, the technology has gotten so good, and the price points have come so far down that you don't have to spend $230,000 like Tulsa did to do this. This particular project is $3,500 per town. To be on an app that has 15 locations around your town is not expensive. Any town can do it. We have towns as large as Tulsa and as small as Cache that are looking into doing this. And so it really is cost effective. So that's a really great use of GPS AR that's happening in our state right now. Now, there's another type of AR technology that's also very interesting, and it's called SLAM. That is an acronym for Simultaneous Localization and Mapping. And basically what this means is that your mobile device has the capability to figure out its surroundings. And it can scan the ground, it can scan the tabletop, the walls, and the newer your phone, the better, but it can figure out what is around it, and then it can make AR objects interact with the physical surroundings. And so what I want to show you is not a city walkability example, but it is a great example of SLAM technology to put objects into the real world that people can interact with. And then I'll share a little bit about how this could be used. So what I'm going to show you now is a video that we did, a project for Sooner Flight Academy. And this is a program at the University of Oklahoma that teaches kids about aviation. And so during the pandemic, they couldn't bring kids to the airport. They're in Norman to Westheimer Field because of the rules and everything, and the schools weren't doing field trips and so on. And so they tried to figure out, well, how can we bring the airport to the kids? And so we used SLAM AR technology to create this really cool app. We actually measure out, with a measuring tool we created, the exact distance for the size of a trainer aircraft. So now we know how big it's going to need to be. Then there's a little arrow pointing, and that aircraft will come land right in front of you. And you can walk around it. This is the same aircraft at a smaller scale inside of a gymnasium at a school. Kids can use and this is the view through the iPad. You can walk around and you can tap on different parts of the plane, and little videos will come up and tell you about them. Here it is landing in a parking lot. And so this is the life-size plane, true to scale. And you can actually explore this aircraft. You can walk around it. We had kids that were laying on their back, scooching underneath it to see what the bottom of the airplane looked like. And so it's really quite incredible. Now, this was for Sooner Flight Academy, but imagine a municipality that has an old railroad depot. And maybe it's not being used anymore, and maybe there's a museum inside of it or something like that, but imagine being able to scan the ground in front of the railroad depot, and a steam locomotive, true to size, rolls up in front of you, and you can walk around it and tap on different parts of that steam locomotive and learn, how did this steam technology work? And why did the steam locomotives have to stop every so often, to get water, and all these kind of things? And you could have this incredible interactive experience with guests to a museum in that situation, which could also tie all of these things together. You could also attach GPS to that, or even do a mapping, a geo map, or a geo fence around that train depot, so that if you're in that geofence, meaning if you're at the train depot, you can see that train come in and do that. But if you're not, you can't. And so we can actually make it where when you're inside the geofence, the app will do certain things, and when you're not in the geofence, it won't. It'll do something else. And so you can kind of start layering these technologies together to create really remarkable experiences. I would challenge you to think about opportunities, especially as it relates to history of your town. Imagine if you could make a covered wagon show up, or a stagecoach, or whatever, as a 3D model object, true to scale, in front of someone at a particular location in your community, and then hold your device and walk around and explore that object. Those are a little more expensive to do things like that, but it is truly possible, and not as bad as you might think. And so it's really neat to see the kind of engagement people can have even in small town Oklahoma. So I want to then kind of talk about where this is all going. Everything we saw are actual examples of real projects that are happening, most of them in our state right now. Now, where it's going really is dependent on the technology. Right now, to use AR technology, you can see there's several different mediums to do it. 99.9% of civilians on this planet use a mobile device right now to interact with augmented reality, because that's what we all have. There are other tools. There's HoloLens, which is a Microsoft product that actually looks kind of like a VR headset, a virtual reality headset, except it's not VR. Instead, they're just glasses that then put the digital images in front of you, so you still see your surroundings, but you can also see the AR elements on top of it. The problem is, right now, nobody is going to wear that thing to go around Newkirk looking at photos, right? Nobody's going to do that. A, nobody has that, and B, even if they did, they wouldn't be going around Newkirk looking at photos with that thing on. So there's a problem there. And so right now, that's why we're tethered to mobile devices. They're the best way to do it. But it is a terrible, it's an archaic way to do AR, because you're holding this thing and you're trying to look around as though you're immersed in this thing, but you're really not, because you're holding your device. And a better way to do it would be to have it on your eyes so that you don't have to hold anything. Your hands are free, and it's more immersive because it's all around you. And that's what these things do, sort of, but they're not available to the public, and they're real expensive, and they're not really that good. But when they get better, that's where you're going to see AR really begin to have a strong hold on how people interact with people and what could be possible. I want to show you a fun little video, and this is not a corporate video. He did it like as a hobby, but he used the HoloLens, and he created this AR experience at Central Park in New York. And I'm going to play this, and you'll very quickly figure out what he did. And this sort of unique way that he used AR and the HoloLens at Central Park, and it's sort of a glimmer of where this technology is going. Let's watch and see if you figure out what this experience is he's created. So you'll notice the first level of Super Mario Brothers is now on the street in front of him. You can still see people walking by, but the little bricks above that you have to hit the coins, and the little mushroom guys you got to jump on top of, they're all there, but you're walking through it, and he's wearing, you can see him on the right, what he's doing, and sometimes you'll see people walk by him and be like, I'm going to walk real far around him. I'm going by. I think these are really cool. It has these pits that look like they're in the ground that you could fall into. You really can't, of course, but they look like you can. And so he recreated the first level of Super Mario Brothers, and it's not on an iPad or a phone. He's wearing these glasses, so it feels somewhat real a little bit. And he got to be Mario and run along and do these things, which leads us to the future. This is what's next. What's next is going to be a combination of ultra high-speed networks married with incredibly powerful hardware. And the hardware is still got a little ways to go. We're not quite there yet. And honestly, so do the networks. But right now, we are just now getting into the 5G networks, that you have around, which are pretty fast as far as cellular networks go. But they're already working on 6G. And 6G, the estimates are that a 6G network will deliver 1 terabyte of data per second to your mobile device. That's a terabyte. For those of you that aren't, a terabyte's a lot. That's a big, giant ton of data coming to your mobile device at high speed everywhere you go. You're not plugged into the wall. It's not cable internet. It is cellular internet at 1 terabyte of data per second. Now, when you marry that kind of high-speed network with a peripheral and hardware that can handle that kind of data and process it, and then have something you can put on your face that doesn't look like you've gone to the moon, but rather it looks like your Ray-Bans, and you're wearing these glasses. There's all sorts of rumors that Apple will be coming out with Apple glasses. I personally think when they do, they should call them eyeglasses. Like iPhone and Apple doesn't care what I think either. So I don't know what they're going to call them, eyeglasses, Apple Glass, whatever. But when that happens, and you can put on a pair of glasses, and the glasses will have cameras in them with LiDAR and all this ultra-sensitive equipment that will be able to scan your surroundings and know what the surfaces are around you, and they'll have really 4K, screens inside of there that can produce very robust AR images, and the processing will not be happening on these glasses. It'll happen on your phone. That'll be tethered, just like right now if you have an Apple Watch or you have the earbuds, they Bluetooth connect to your phone, and the phone is really driving all the activity. Those are just peripherals to see it. Well, this would be another kind of peripheral wirelessly connected to your device. Now imagine you're getting 1 terabyte of data per second going to your phone on an ultra high-speed network that's Bluetooth to these glasses that have 4K resolution and can produce these incredibly intricate images in real time attached to the floor or the wall or the table in front of you. Things get interesting real fast. So just to kind of give you a picture, imagine this all happened and you're at the grocery store and you're walking, and GPS technology as well is tracking where you are just like it does now, except even more detailed, knows right where you're at, and you're walking down the grocery store aisle and you're in the cereal aisle. And you look over and you see Captain Crunch of the box of cereal. And then all of a sudden, it looks like Captain Crunch has just jumped off the box of cereal into the middle of the aisle, and he's just flinging cereal at you, right? And he's running all around and making a mess. And then he jumps back onto the box, and it all goes away, and you're like, oh, yeah, I think I should get some Captain Crunch cereal. And then you go on. And this all happens seamlessly on your glasses. That's kind of maybe the direction of where we're going, for better or for worse, in the future, to the extent that eventually AR will become so realistic that you won't really always be able to tell the difference between, is it real or is it Maybelline? Is it really there or is it fake? And you might even have to bring the glasses down to be like, okay, that's real and that's really not there. Okay. And then you put them back on. And so that's kind of the direction that we're headed. As it relates to us today, I'm very excited about the idea of glass for no other reason than I am picturing walking into a time portal, not holding a mobile device, but actually just having my hands free. And once you get in there, you can tap on things just by touching the air, in front of you, but there's a menu screen in front that you can see and do, and be able to interact with pieces of history and things like that. And that kind of way is very freeing and exciting. I'm sure there will be all sorts of nonsense that will be created for this technology as well, and the cybersecurity people will have a field day with it, and we'll go right back to the beginning of the morning when you have all this doom and gloom to talk about related to this next round of technology that's coming. But there's so many wonderful things that can be done with it as well. And so as city leaders, I challenge you to begin thinking about how to apply this kind of technology to capture the imagination of your citizens. And not just your citizens, but the citizens that live 2 towns over, and the ones that live across the state, and the ones that live in California, and the ones that live in England, and getting them here to experience Oklahoma in a way that is truly exciting and interesting and engaging. And then on top of all of that, capturing the imagination of the youngest generation. I have a passion for history and figuring out how do we connect it to our kids so they care about it as much as the 90-year-old adult that has lived nearly a century and knows all the changes that have happened in that community, and connecting the kids to it. And we really believe that technology like this can do that. And so, again, it's something to certainly think about and explore as you're looking for ways to create public engagement and interactivity in your communities. Questions? What questions do you have about this? Any? I know it's a lot. Yes? we won't necessarily be able to tell you where they're coming from, but we can provide usage data. So we can tell how many people have used the app, how many people have actually, interacted with it, and that sort of thing. We don't collect information about where they come from, for instance, or that sort of thing. But yes. Well, that's a great question. It all depends on where those photos are. Some communities have done a wonderful job of creating historical archives. And first meeting, we could walk in, sit down, they put it all out on the table, and like, here's what we want, and we're off to the races. Some communities, it's a little more challenging. Some communities have to actually put a notice in the newspaper that says, come to the library on this day at this time if you have old photos, and then they start trying to sift through to find things. So if you have the photos, about a month is really at this point about the turnaround time. It isn't a real long process to do that. You can absolutely grow it. And in fact, the fun thing about that is you can actually create seasonal activities too. So we might do a fun at Halloween time, like a ghost tour, to different communities, or at Christmas time, have some kind of fun tour that's specific to that time of year. We haven't done this on the app, but you can actually get as granular as saying, and again, we haven't done this yet, but we could. If you come to our town after dark, like, after 6 p.m., we'll say, you're going to get nighttime photos of historical photos that were taken at night. And the app knows what time you're there. And it will automatically produce those photos. If you're there before 6 p.m., then you'll get the daytime photos. Again, we haven't done that with anyone yet, but it could be done. So it's possible, yeah. No, there's no cost. The only cost for the time frame app is the municipality or the Main Street Authority of the chamber, whoever's going to do it, and it's $3,500. So, and that covers the expense for our team to come to town, get the GPS locations, work with the historian or whoever has those photos. And then it also includes narration. So we'll actually have a script that we develop from bullet points you give us about each photo, and then a narrator will narrate those experiences. So it was designed with, and a lot of that's in working with OU. One of the goals of that project was not to make it a huge moneymaker or anything, but it was to make an AR type, kind of our modus operandi for creating that app, was to develop a product that could theoretically be done in any size community that wanted to do it. They could hold a fundraiser and raise enough money if they really wanted to do it. And that was the goal. So it isn't just some big thing in Tulsa and Oklahoma City and nobody else can do it. We wanted to make it where any municipality that wanted to could take advantage of that. Any other questions? All right, well, I think it's almost time to go. So thank you very much for your time today.